Good morning. Hand today is going to be 6-5 hearts. We are in middle position, hijack. We open raise, we get a caller, folds around. So hijack, just going to do a raise first in stat. I've got two players that are loose behind me, both of them. This one's very loose, playing 40% of hands easy. Next guy's playing 40%. This was everything, from including the optional. I do think, though, if we are playing against these players, we probably need to get rid of these bluish hands, these weaker hands. Tighten up a little bit because we know we're going to get called. That being said, there's probably nothing wrong with playing some of the weaker hands because I do expect the caller to have many more weaker hands. So this is the range. It's actually pretty big. It's probably fairly accurate. We can look at the notes that we have. We've got two call two bets in position. You've got ace, king, 7-5, king, queen. But then we also have some notes here where he calls, what he calls with, calls race first in with. We've got 9-7 offsuit. We've got pocket fives. We've got a jack 10 offsuit. I think that's enough to say that we're gonna have suited connectors, some suited offsuits as well. So I think we're gonna go with this type of range for him. And it's just the two of us. We see the flop, so flop comes out queen 2-2. We have a backdoor heart draw. Villain has a bunch of hands that completely miss. I think given that hand, I will say that I did exclude kings and aces. His 3-bet stat is pretty low, so we could just look at 3-bet by position. Like just 3-bet overall is one out of 194, so 0.5%. That's like aces only, maybe aces, kings, sometimes kings thrown on, something very tight. Any case, it's on us. What do? We don't have a huge number of draws here. We've got 2-card backdoor draws. That's going to probably be our drawing hands here. I do think overall we're probably betting, given that our range is better than villains. And maybe we don't. Maybe this is the one, since he has some of these big hands. Maybe now this is the one where we kind of check call. But if we're betting, I can guarantee you that we're betting, maybe something like this. Our 2-card backdoor flushes, that's going to be our bluffs. 6-7, that's going to be our bluff hand. Pocket pairs, us and the queens are probably check calls. So I check, he checks behind. So I'm going to go with that as my check. He's passive, so I'm going to say that he has everything, that he's not going to be attacking. Turns a 5, pairs this up. It's on us now. So, oops, hold on. We're going to have to go back here. So we set up our c-bet. We didn't c-bet. I think that was a mistake. I think at the time, given the board, I was probably looking at quads and full houses is kind of like our checks. 3 of a kind's probably like a check. Over pair is going to be a bet. Most of our top pairs are going to be a bet. I think ace queen, king queen are probably like check calls. So we're just going to go ahead and add these, since we already know we checked. And I disagree. I disagree with how I played this. I do think we should be betting here. I don't think we should be check raising. I think given what we've been seeing on some of our play, on some of our strategies, I think we're going to need to be aggressive. We're going to need to bet. We're going to need to try to get paid. Like ace 2, we need to bet that. Queens, we need to bet that. You never know. This is such a dry board that if we bet, we think villain's gonna fold. Also, or villain's gonna call. Also, the other thing is villain's got a pretty high fold to c-bet stat, so we can attack here and really probably pick him up with a lot of the junk that we have. overcards will probably be used as a bluff. We'll probably, I know it's not all of them, but I think that's going to be somewhat of our check there. It's like 89%. That gets us there. Okay, so 5 of diamonds. Come back to it. Once it goes check, check, I do think we need to be betting again. And I didn't. We need to attack. I think it's in line with like jacks, 10s, 9s. We should be betting. I think this is a screw up again. Villain checks behind again. At this point, do I think he's going to be betting anything? Maybe. I'm gonna leave his full stack in, and then 3 clubs comes back. Once I've checked, I think this bet should have been like the flop or the turn. Really, that's my personal opinion. Because if we bet, and we could go back previously, if we bet, I think he's probably calling, maybe top pair plus. He's passive, so maybe it's going to be any pair. And that's, I think, we give him the opportunity by betting on the flop just to get rid of a lot of these junky hands. Now, any of these hands, and those are actually pretty good cards that came out. They're really low for our hand. I think he's going to probably call with any pair. So this kind of hits somewhat of value. He shows 6-4 and backs into the straight. So I did have that in his range. This was just a very difficult hand for us to read because Villain's so passive, and once we check, it's his entire range. I don't expect him to be betting much. Now this entirely changes had I c-bet. If I c-bet, he is not calling at all. I don't think he calls. So, we could pick up the pot. So overall, I think this is a very poor hand. I do think we should be betting. So let's check that out in GTO. All right. This thing took a while to run. Here's what we have. As expected, I did think we were going to be betting a lot, and we should have been. I think this is a situation where our range is better. It's slightly stronger. It's narrower, so I don't think we have as many hands to get rid of. Now, if we're going to c-bet at this frequency, which is like 96%, we're not going to be barreling as much. As we're now, barreling's probably down to 50%. So we're betting about a third, maybe half pot bet. We could look at our hand 6-7. It does look like we're split between that smaller and the half pot size bet. We do have some larger bet sizes, which would be like the kings, the ace-x hands. I think overall we are just generally split. So we have a few checks, and those are like hands that like they don't have the backdoor flush draws. So if we bet, then I do think we're getting folds quite a bit, and I do think Villain's probably going to be folding a lot of those. If he calls, this is a 5 of diamonds. If he calls, then we're down to betting, much lower frequency. And this frequency probably depends on like what comes out. So aces are pretty low, kings at like 40, jacks at 40, queens at 46, 8s at 39, and that's all diamonds. What if it's a heart? Same thing. Looks like percentages are the same. Let's give the spade, where it really completes the rainbow. So I guess the rainbow really is a little bit less because we missed out on all of our backdoor draws. But when that 5 of diamonds comes out, now we look at our 7-6. What was it, 6-5? We connect with the pair, and then we are continuing. It's still about 40%. We're betting it. So it's kind of what I expected. GTO was suggesting we should be betting based on our ranges. We've got a better range size, and I think that's where the mistake was made. So again, we're doing these to learn. I'm starting to pick up on those patterns. It's not necessarily what's often in the books or on training sites, where when you're out of position, you should usually check. You're not gonna be c-betting as much. You're gonna be having more check calls, check raises in those cases. I think it still kind of depends on the ranges. And in this case, when we're up against a range that's going to be much wider than ours, and also slightly weaker, we're going to be attacking. We're going to be betting more to take advantage of the fact that they have many more hands in their range. They can't continue with those because you've got all these hands that just completely missed. And yeah, we're going to miss too, but at least we're betting mostly with some hands that actually have backdoor potential. So hopefully you enjoy this hand. If you do, you can look tomorrow for our next hand.